Nigerians are increasingly being caught in the crossfire as security forces battle various armed groups across the country. Local officials say on April 11th, a deadly airstrike on a busy market in northeastern Nigeria killed at least 200 people, raising the questions about what went wrong. The Nigerian military insists the airstrike on Jili Market in Borno State was carried out after the area was identified as a Boko Haram terrorist corridor and logistics hub. But residents say many of the victims had simply gone to the market. Brenda Zeta-Radido has more.
This is what's left after a deadly military airstrike on Jili village. The Nigerian government says
the federal government reiterates that this was a deliberate intelligence-led operation, not an indiscriminate attack, conducted on one of the most active insurgent corridors in the northeast.
it didn't mention how many civilians were killed or injured.
I got up to go to my horse and the rest of my goats to drive them home, when suddenly a jet came and hit us. About 30 people were injured.
The people in this hospital went to the market and they were fired at. I received information about the accident while in a village in Gaidam, prompting me to rush down to the hospital.
Local officials and Amnesty International say hundreds of people were killed and injured by the airstrike. Nigeria has been fighting militant groups like the Boko Haram and Daesh West Africa since 2009. Armed groups have carried out several attacks on military bases, while criminal gangs continue to raid villages, target farmers and miners in Nigeria's northwest. The airstrike is not an isolated incident. It raises questions about intelligence gathering and how civilians can be protected during military operations. Brenda Zeta-Radido, Africa Matters.
Let's take a closer look at some of the other military airstrikes that have hit civilians in Nigeria. In January 2017, a Nigerian official admitted for the first time that an Air Force jet targeting Boko Haram terrorists had mistakenly bombed an internally displaced people's camp, killing more than 100 people and wounding 8 workers in Borno State. 6 years later, 39 civilians were killed by a military airstrike in Kwatiri, a small settlement for cattle herders in Nasarawa State. And in December 2023, a military drone strike hit an Eid gathering in Tundumbiri village in Kaduna State, killing at least 85 people. Another village strike a year later left at least 24 people dead, with large gatherings misidentified as militant groups. In April 2024, about 30 civilians were killed during an Eid gathering in Zamfara State. The army says it was targeting kidnapping gangs. Less than a year later, another military airstrike left at least 15 people dead. In the same year, a military airstrike targeting suspected armed groups in a nearby Suriname forest killed 10 people in nearby villages in Sokoto State, destroying homes, livestock, and grain silos. And the death toll keeps rising after the latest military airstrike at a market along the border between Borno and Yobe State. It has mistakenly killed an estimated 200 people in an area where army says insurgents tend to blend into markets and trading hubs. Let's now hear from Robert Anya Nkata. He's the board president, Peace for Africa Initiative, and a lecturer at Veritas University. He joins me here in Abuja. Nice of you to join us. Now, is there a pattern of accidental military airstrikes in Nigeria, and why does it keep happening?
Well, because it has happened, severally. That's why you think it's a pattern. But I want to disabuse your mind from it being a pattern. It's something that happens even in the ongoing war, Israeli-American war against Iran. You could see that a secondary school was actually bombed, most probably in error. I don't think any sane human being, a soldier, would like to attack a school. But you see, when pilots go out, it's not really easy to get accurate targets on the criminals or the bandits when you're on air. It's not really easy, especially when it's asymmetric. These guys dress in normal attire, and the only difference is that they are carrying guns. So to differentiate between them is really very difficult from the air. And secondly, when you try to target them and they run away, most times they run into civilian targets. And depending on the, what's it called? The instruction you are giving from, which was called rules of engagement. You are giving rules. If these people run, follow them. You know they will run into places to go and hide. Attack them there. So when such instructions are given, there's nothing you can do as a pilot that is trying to target the criminals. Number two, these are coordinates. They give you coordinates of a specific target to, bomb. And when there's a slight error in the targets, probably you want to impute 9 and impute 6, you're getting the wrong target. So it could be human error. Sometimes too, these equipments, these projectiles malfunction. When you key, it malfunctions sometimes. So it's not, I don't think it's something that's intentional, but because it has happened, too often, we think it's becoming a pattern in Nigeria. So I want to let you know that not only Nigeria, happens everywhere in the world. Yeah.
And why are civilians being caught in the crossfire? And how can these casualties be avoided?
Like I said ab initio, it's an asymmetric warfare. In a conventional warfare, your enemies are coming from one direction and you're in the opposite direction. But in a situation, you are fighting people that live within the civilian population. It's almost impossible not to have collateral damages.
Now, the army insists that they have hit terrorist targets as intended based on intelligence reports. Is that the case?
Most times, they actually hit the targets. Like I said, these are precision-guided projectiles. They give you a target with coordinates, and you kill the coordinates. And then, if for any reason it hits the wrong place, you actually hit the targets given to you, technically. But most times, when you get back, and then you get feedback from the places that are attacked, that, oh, the target you actually hit was civilian population. So that's, you see, technically you could see I hit the target because you're giving some targets to hit with coordinates. But when it hits the wrong people from feedback, it's only when you get feedback. You are not coming down to see what you did. But when you get back, because you that is attacking, you are trying to leave the enemy area too, so as not to be targeted, you understand, by these criminals. So, but when you get the feedback, oh, that target you hit was actually a church, it was actually a school, it was actually a dormitory. That's when you now go back and say, oh, it was a wrong target. Then the investigation starts from there. Did you actually hit the target you were given? When you are imputing it there, there's a record to show that it was actually the target. So from the investigation, they will be able to know whether there was a miscalculation on the target or the equipment malfunctioned or it was an intentional act too. Yeah.
And have any investigations into accidental airstrikes like this been led to prosecution or accountability at least?
Of course, there's provision for, in any war, especially asymmetric warfare, there's always precision, there's always opening for, let's say, error, whatever. But when it exceeds a particular margin, it's intentional. But these things cannot be disclosed now while the war is still ongoing, so that the enemies, the criminals will not take advantage of it. It's just like saying, oh, they ran into a house and I pursued them. So they will know, oh, actually, when we run, they follow us. Do you understand? So they are not going to, I don't think no military will want to disclose it while the war is still on. They are still called classified documents. But when the war is over, they will make it available for everybody to see.
But don't you think that non-disclosure could, dampen public confidence on the military?
Yeah, it may dampen the public confidence on the military, even trust on the military. But what is the target of the military? To win the war. That's the first thing, to win the war. So when we win the war, which is to protect you and I, they can come back and then tell us exactly what happened, how it happened, and then that confidence as lost will be restored.
And how can the army reduce civilian casualties while, of course, still confronting the security threats?
Yes, I talked about feedback. For every operation you go, you work on the feedback. There are units set up in the military that takes up, they investigate the feedback to find out, did this soldier, did this pilot act out of, you could be out of bias, or was it a result of malfunctioning of the equipment? If it is, they'll change the equipment. Is it also technical error from the projectile itself? If yes, they will change it just to make sure we don't have that. I don't think any military will be happy to hit civilian targets. No military.
Robert Anyankata, thanks for your time and
Thank
insights. Still to come here on Africa Matters.
My name is Razia Athman, and I'll show you how conservationist Moses Arinitwe is rescuing pangolins in an effort to protect one of the world's most trafficked mammals.
To the small West African country of Benin, where the finance minister Ramodwe Dagny has swept into victory with 94% of the vote. But the main opposition party was barred from running in the April 12th presidential election. Akin Alaka has the reaction from Cotonou, the commercial capital of Benin.
Les suffrages obtenus par les duos de candidats.
The ruling coalition won after an election day with no queues. In this country of 13 million people, many voters stayed away by choice.
Beninois people showed a lot of restraint. They are upset. They did not turn out to vote, and it is true. We went through a difficult period in households, in homes, because business activity was not flowing as it normally should. There was a rift between the majority of Beninois citizens and the outgoing head of state.
That rift did not appear overnight. Patrice Talon came to power a decade ago, grew the economy at 7% a year, but political opponents faced prosecution and the main opposition was disqualified by the Constitutional Court and the Electoral Commission for insufficient endorsements and lack of parliamentary seats.
The moment you exclude someone and say you want to make their life better without them, even if they are brilliant ideas, they will not succeed. And even if they do succeed, they will not win popular support.
Talon's term were up, so his finance minister Wadai ran in his place.
It is not simply about the winner anymore. It's about the legacy. Benin has been experiencing strong economic growth, but there is also frustration by those who feel excluded from the political space. People here expect the next president to address both.
Wadai inherits a country growing at 7% a year, but with an officially low unemployment. But young people say they struggle to find decent jobs.
As for me, they should create opportunity for young men who goes to have work.
The incoming president also faces a worsening armed rebellion from an Al-Qaeda-linked group in the north of the country and an estimated poverty rate of more than 30%. Once he is sworn into office, he will have at least 7 years to deliver on his election promises. Akin Alaka, African Matters, Cotonou.
Well, farmers and exporters in South Africa are hoping for a quick resolution to the Iran war. The nation is one of the top apple exporters globally, and the Trade and Industry Minister, Park Stahl, warns that close to $900 million in revenue could be lost if the now-paused Iran war resumes and goes on for more than 90 days. Vicky Stark spoke to an apple farmer in Cape Town.
Yanni de Wet is a fourth-generation apple farmer who exports to the Middle and Far East. He ships his fruit to countries like the United Arab Emirates, India, Malaysia, Singapore and China.
So our concerns at this moment is obviously the cost of exporting. As soon as the war broke out, there was war levies on containers already on the water and containers being starting to be shipped.
Yanni says since several shipping companies introduced a war risk surcharge, forcing farmers to pay twice as much per container, the price has doubled from around $4,000 to $8,000. The trade balance has also been upset by tensions in the Strait of Hormuz.
Either diverting it to India or Malaysia or so on now. Your customer was waiting for fruit from you and all of a sudden he's oversupplied and you still want to send to him, but now he's got too much stock. It is a relief to see that there's been a ceasefire. It's too early to say what effect that's going to be because this is not an overnight rectification.
South Africa's fruit exports generated nearly $3.5 billion in revenue in the 2023-2024 season, according to the National Agricultural Marketing Council. There is growing concern about escalating food prices and job losses in the agricultural sector that employs nearly 1 million people, according to official data.
The reality of it is that before the war, South Africa was on a very good trajectory. We were looking, the interest rates were coming down, the inflation was under 4%, which is exactly, as you know, the rate of exchange was very much coming down as well, so things were becoming more cost effective. So this is a great sadness that everything was thrown out of course.
In South Africa, there's a saying in Afrikaans, 'n boer maak 'n plan,' meaning a farmer makes a plan. And for now, farmers are finding alternative routes to reach their customers. But with the cost of shipping double what it used to be before the US and Israel began waging war on Iran, and with the cost of fuel skyrocketing, farmers are desperate for this ceasefire to evolve into a lasting peace. Vicky Stark, Africa Matters, Feyenoord, South Africa.
As oil prices rise globally, Somalia is hoping for an oil windfall on its waters after it launched its first offshore drilling operation. It marks a major step toward harnessing its oil and gas resources in partnership with Türkiye. Mohamed Kahiya reports from the historic launch that took place in the capital, Mogadishu.
Somalia is hoping that the Turkiye's deep-sea drilling vessel Caribe will extract its first barrel of oil in about 10 months. US government data estimates the country has at least 30 billion barrels of oil and gas reserves.
Profits from the resources will benefit all Somalis, wherever they live in the country. There is no concept that a well drilled in one region belongs only to the people of that region. Natural resources are national wealth and will benefit all Somalis equally or through different mechanisms.
Somalia also hopes to benefit from the technology transfer and technical expertise through this historic partnership with Caribe, the newest and most advanced addition to Turkey's energy fleet. It will focus on the Urat-1 oil well on Somali waters.
This drilling operation will be the world's second deepest offshore drilling, reaching a total depth of 7,500 meters. As of today, Türkiye is joining the ranks of countries conducting deep-sea drilling beyond its borders.
Somalia imports nearly all of its refined petroleum products and has no refinery. 2024 data from the tracking website Worldometer shows that the country consumed an estimated 11,000 barrels of oil every day. And the US-Israel war on Iran in February this year cut supply and doubled fuel prices.
As a youthful citizen born here in the country, I'm very happy to see our country exploring its natural resources with partnership with our friends after the long period of the conflict. I see it as which is a win-win situation. We are very excited about this project.
The joint oil drilling is part of a comprehensive defense deal, provides security, including the training of Somali Navy to protect maritime resources. Many Somalis have welcomed this partnership with Türkiye, expressing optimism ahead of the day the country's first barrel of oil reaches the international market. It is an ambitious project that many hope will transform their lives and add a new stream to the turbulent global oil market. Hamid Kahi, Africa Matters, Mogadishu, Somalia.
To landlocked Rwanda next, which is racing to balance rapid urban growth with food security as farmland in its capital, Kigali, continues to shrink. Authorities are turning to innovative initiatives to sustain food production and ensure the country can still feed itself. Kubra Akosh tells us more.
84-year-old Mukaro Sinikuru Sikira grows maize and sweet potatoes on a small plot in Kigali. Her family farm once stretched across the hills, but when she returned after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis, much of it had been taken over by development.
Because of constructions, the only land I have left is this small plot of land you see here to support my livelihood.
Her story reflects a wider shift in Rwanda, where nearly 70% of people depend on agriculture. Yet most farm on plots smaller than 5,000 square meters. As the country's population of about 14 million people expands and land becomes scarce, traditional farmers are being forced to adapt.
Vertical farming allows you to bring farming closer to the people. And what that does is it gets people closer in touch with food. So they can do it in their homes, they can do it at their place of work.
Across the city, crops are now grown in stacked containers and along walls, with some small urban farms producing hundreds of plants in tight spaces. Others are turning to hydroponics. growing crops in nutrient-rich water instead of soil to maximize the produce. City officials acknowledge the changing dynamic and say that farming still has a place in Kigali's future.
The master plan of the city of Kigali contains that 22% of the agricultural land, but it also has the 45% of residential and commercial, but also has wetlands, forest, gardening, and everything. So what we were doing is making sure that we use those images provided by the satellites to compare with the current status of the way the population is using the land and see if there are no illegal, either illegal construction or illegal projects.
In Kigali, the future of farming may no longer fully lie in expanding land, but in making every square meter count. Kübra Akkoç, Africa Matters.
And finally, do you know what's shy and secretive but endangered? I'm talking about pangolins, which are believed to be the most trafficked animals in the world. Uganda is home to 4 major species of pangolins, but it is also a key transit hub in the illegal global trade of their scales. Razaya Athman visits a rescue center that's trying to change that in southwestern town of Kanungu.
It often starts with a phone call from a farmer who has encountered a strange animal in their garden. In communities where people are poor, farmers often face the dilemma of choosing to kill and eat pangolin meat or sell the animal to poachers and buy food with the money.
Sometimes we kill them. I don't think there is any value in this animal.
And that's where the Pangolin Rescue Center comes in. Since it was set up 10 years ago, it has rescued and released 187 pangolins back into the wild.
When we tell people to stop poaching, we need to show them something else to do. Because sometimes some people are poachers because of their situation, not necessarily because they are bad people.
The illegal trade of pangolin scales is mostly driven by demand from Asian markets. Conservation groups estimate that over 1 million pangolins were trafficked in the last decade, along with global seizures of more than 7 tons of pangolin scales, which are made of keratin and are believed to be medicinal. The rescued pangolins stay in rehabilitation at the center, but every day they are brought out into the forest to walk, feed, and regain natural behavior. That way, Moses and his rescue team also learn a little bit more about these shy animals. And once it's determined that they are strong enough to survive on their own, the Uganda Wildlife Authority rangers are then contacted to release them back into protected areas of the wild. But wildlife advocates say that the approach needs to shift to communities.
Imagine being prosecuted for what someone thinks is not criminal enough. So yes, there is still a gap, there's still ignorance, there's still need for more community involvement.
Magara area is among the 150 people who are now helping to combat trafficking of endangered species, but it is expensive to convince poachers to leave the trade.
We have piggery projects, so we are earning from it, and now there is no need to go back to hunting. Now I'm somebody not like before. We used to kill animals and eat from the forest, but now I can eat meat in my house.
In Uganda, the pangolins are just one of many endangered animals, and until communities can benefit from their protection, the world's most trafficked mammals remain at risk. Razia Athman, Africa Matters, Kanungu, Uganda.
That's our show this week. Share your thoughts and suggestions about Nigerian civilian casualties and what can be done. You can leave your comments on our Africa Matters YouTube page or on X. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye from me, Timothy Obiezu, in Abuja.